Welcome back to Mets Up, presented by Fox One. Is there something wrong with Philadelphia? What is going on? I don't know if you guys are hip to it because, again, this is a Mets podcast. This is a little more baseball-y talk. But in case you've been sleeping under a rock, we'll fill you in. The Phillies and Bryce Harper might have a legitimate problem. I think people are trying to throw water on this thing, and it shouldn't be. Dave Dombrowski made comments. Bryce Harper responded to those comments publicly to The Athletic. I think this shit might get uglier sooner than later. It feels super, super weird. We're going to talk about it because it's our rival, and we hate the Phillies, and anything bad with them is a win for the Mets. If you guys are enjoying Mets Up, make sure to subscribe. If you like this baseball talk as well, we have another channel called The Wind Up where me and James talk baseball, all kinds of baseball. Check it out. Link in the description if you want to go subscribe over there. You like what we're doing. If you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. And without further ado, James, you got the red Philly background behind you over there. It's very, very topical for this conversation. Boy, am I excited.
No, this is fun. And again, you guys why are you guys talking about the Phillies? Not one thing's happening in the Mets world right now.
You guys want us to talk about Dickie Lovelady. He's been re-signed. He's back on a one-year deal.
He's back. And we're going to start really pushing the offseason content probably just next week when the World Series is over. We're just not there yet. We're also going to be a big AFL recap later this week. We're going to have Chris Suero, AFL Mets superstar, coming on the podcast, going to interview him, talk about some advanced data we have on the guys there. But for now, this Philly story is very interesting. And of course, it pertains to the Mets because the Phillies won this division this year. They won this division last year. This is the preeminent team in the National League East. And
except when they play us.
Except when they play. I mean, this year regular season, they kind of fucked up a little bit. But this all started right after the Phillies were eliminated from the playoffs. And if you guys forget how the Phillies were eliminated from the playoffs, it's because there was an error by Ryan Kerkering, just threw the ball square over Jesse Realmuto's head with bases loaded and 2 outs. So when something like that happens, you can really get in people's heads. You can get in players' heads, you can get in fans' heads. And now I think we're seeing can kind of get in executives' heads because Dave Dombrowski did his State of the Union right after the Philly season ended. And for some reason, he went on this big diatribe about Bryce Harper, kind of needling him, instigating him. And I have the quotes here for you guys. When asked about Harper, of course he's still a quality player. He's still an all-star caliber player. He didn't have an elite season like he's had in the past. I guess we only find out if he becomes elite or if he continues to be good. I look around the league. Freddie Freeman, he's a really good player, right? He's still a good player. Is he elite like he was before? Probably not to the same extent. Freddie's a tremendous player. And that, to me, that's Bryce. Can he rise to that next level again? I don't really know the answer. Then he continued. Really, he's the one who will dictate that more than anything else. That's what it comes down to. So I don't think he's content with the year that he had. And again, it wasn't a bad year. But when I think of Bryce Harper, you're thinking elite, right? You're thinking of one of the top 10 players in baseball. And I don't think it fit into that category. But again, a very good player. I have no idea. I've seen guys at his age. Again, he's not old. That level off. Or I've seen guys rise again. We'll see what happens.
It's insane.
It's a lot.
Why? That's like, you didn't have to tell us all that. You didn't have to say all those words. You could have just been like, hey, we hope Bryce bounces back, have another strong season. He's a part of this team. And he went the complete opposite. And where I think he started okay, it was like one of those moves like, shut up, stop talking, because we now have Bryce Harper's reaction to these comments, as well as all the speculation. Joel Sherman went on a podcast, talked about how he would not be 100% surprised if Bryce Harper got traded this offseason. There was a lot of things flying around.
And then Dave Dombrowski, after that, came on foul territory and then kind of walked these things back. He was like, no, he is an elite talent. I think, I don't want anyone to read too much into this, which is kind of exactly what you would do if you probably weren't considering trading this guy.
Yeah, if there was a thought that Bryce Harper maybe isn't the piece that you want for the next, I think he's still there for 7 more years, 8 more years.
I'm pulling it up right now.
You'll find out how many years. Maybe they try to get out of it. Feels insane. Bryce Harper's still very good. A down season for Bryce Harper was still, I think, in the Athletic article, they mentioned was in the top 20 still in terms of WRC plus or OPS plus in baseball. So still pretty damn good in what was a bad season with a wrist injury, which does zap power. And that was the biggest thing missing from Harper's game this year was his power.
Yeah, Bryce Harper is signed through the 2031 season. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more years at an average annual value around $24 million
which is
a year.
Dirt cheap, by the way. That's absolutely nothing for Bryce Harper.
It's a tremendous contract for who he still has as a player. But then when Harper responded to this, you did feel like he felt a little bit betrayed, a little bit hurt.
So this is what Harper said. He said, I've given my all to Philly from the start. Now there's trade talk. I made every effort to avoid this. It's all I heard in DC with the Nationals. I hated it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Harper said he was hurt by Dombrowski's original comments, which were made at the end of season media availability, despite Dombrowski saying he was not challenging Harper. That's Harper saying he was hurt. Kind of crazy. Kind of nuts. If I was a Phillies fan, I would be like, what is going on?
And in the original Matt Gelb article about Dombrowski's comments from The Athletic, he was like, if you read between the lines and squint, this looks like an executive trying to challenge a veteran player. And then again, when Dombrowski went in foul territory, he goes, this thing now has a life of its own. Now I've been reading that, the Phillies may trade Bryce Harper. That couldn't be further from the truth. We love him. We think he's a great player. And then the fact that this keeps being said out loud, you got to think that there's something here. But also, we've seen this with the Mets for the last few years. The league doesn't value first baseman very much.
No.
But now we're all watching the World Series right now. Having elite players who could hit any position will help you get to the next level.
And it doesn't matter what their defense is. Vlad Jr. can't play first base. Doesn't matter because he mashes. Freddie Freeman mashes. You don't care.
It's also, though, the fact that, and we talked about this with the Mets, we talked about it a little bit with the Pete Alonso situation right now. The Phillies, they've had the same core. We're going on 4 or 5 years, but exactly the same thing. They keep hitting a wall at a similar spot. In fact, a lot of times the Phillies are actually moving backwards. They haven't even reached the NLCS in a few years now. There's probably sometimes you have that little tick inside your brain when you're an executive. Should I change for the sake of change? Probably wrong in the case of literally Bryce Harper, but also like, is Bryce Harper still an elite player?
I mean, we did some content on the windup and we put him in All-Star. We didn't put him in the elite tier. And based on how he played last year, he was not an elite performer, I think. I don't think that by any means you would say he's one of the elite first basemen statistically last season. That being said, do I think he's going to come back next year and have an MVP caliber season offensively with those numbers? For sure. He still gets on base at one of the highest clips in the league. He still has the raw exit velo powers that you want out of your power hitter. It was just a weird season for him overall. There is kind of an underappreciation, though, happening for him right now. Even I'm seeing Phillies fans replying to stuff about the Harper rumors and his comments and them being pissed at him. Granted, Harper has not shown up in the postseason for the Phillies. That's been definitely a big reason why. You mentioned at the beginning the Phillies got knocked out by the Dodgers because of a play made by the pitcher, but truthfully, it's because the core didn't show up for a second in that series against the Dodgers. If any of them hit, they're probably still playing baseball right now. They're in the World Series. And Harper being one of those guys who hasn't performed.
Well, the last 3 years, Harper did perform in the playoffs. This is the first time Harper didn't show up in the playoffs.
Fair.
Phillies fans kind of love, we all as baseball fans love that recency bias. But
did he show up against the Mets?
I mean, he hit the home run. He was on base. He walked a ton. He did have the big strikeout that was against Manaea, but like you wouldn't blame him for them losing that series.
True. Yeah, that one wasn't his fault.
No, and also
none of them are his fault. But
no, none of these are his fault at all. He had 6 home runs in their 2022 playoff run. Like the guy he had 350 average that postseason. Like he was all over the field. Like for people to blame Bryce Harper's for the Phillies' losses because he didn't have a good postseason this time in under 20 plate appearances, stupid. But yeah, it is a good reminder that a lot of times I think we see this across the league. We see this with Stearns. We just saw this with Dombrowski. We saw this famously with Jerry Topola, Mr. 54%. These executives live in their own world. They think in their own world. They say things sometimes that just sound so fucking asinine to us fans, but like they have the process behind it. But that's also the same distance sometimes between these executives and players. And then you get Bryce, where he even doubled down more in some comments. That he went to Matt Gelb. Bryce Harper didn't have to make any of these comments. Matt Gelb's a great writer. He's a Phillies lead beat writer for The Athletic. And he goes, all players get hurt. I hurt my wrist this year. I missed a month. Of course I didn't have full year numbers. It's disappointing to hear me being questioned about my contribution to the team. Just really hurt by that notion because I love Philly so much. Harper was very intentional when he was a free agent and he signed his contract that he wanted to go somewhere, and that was it. He wanted to find a home. He didn't negotiate any opt-outs like every other player wants to negotiate opt-outs. He negotiated a contract at the same time as Manny Machado, and Harper and Machado, I think, are both Hall of Famers from this era. I think Machado's probably a more valuable player, in air quotes, because his defense is so good, but I think Manny Machado is also a much more inconsistent player than Bryce Harper is. Machado negotiated his opt-out. He got a huge bonus a few years ago. Harper didn't want to deal with any of that. He didn't want to think about any of that. He's like, I want to be here.
He said that later on in the article. He said, I wanted these fans to know Philly is my home from the start. I made the commitment to stay here the rest of my career. No opt-outs, even though I was advised otherwise. I trust John being the owner of the Phillies. And hearing your GM, he's in charge of building this team. Bryce Harper can only do what Bryce Harper can. It's got to be extremely frustrating, again, in a season where you were injured, for a team that you took he took a pay cut. $25 million a year for Bryce Harper is unbelievably affordable. We're talking about, like, that's what we think Pete Alonso would get on the top end. Bryce Harper is a Hall of Famer. Pete Alonso hopes to get there one day type conversation. He moved positions. He's done everything that you would want from your star player. Anybody would want from your star player, someone who's looking to win. There's no doubt Bryce Harper is trying to win. Even that contract was so team-friendly that it could help them sign Zach Wheeler to long-term deals. And Aaron Nola and all these different guys, Trey Turner, bringing all these players. It did feel, like you mentioned, a little bit of that disconnect that happens at times between the front office and the players, where it was like, you can think that, and you should just keep it inside. You should keep it with the people at work. You should not have said that shit publicly.
The 2025 baseball season is down to what matters most, lifting the trophy. With DraftKings Sportsbook, you're right there for every pitch, every moment. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the intensity of the championship stage with player props, live in-game betting, and more. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. This is what October baseball is all about. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
It's that moment where, like, you're at a party, you're hanging out with friends, you just see one of your friends talking, and like you said before, shut up.
Shut up. Stop
Why
talking.
are you still saying this right now? And then, again, this whole article that Matt Gill wrote in response to the Dombrowski comments with Harper, the whole thing felt very calculated. And the last line of this article was another quote from Harper to close. From changing positions to coming back early from injury, I show total commitment for my team, and yet there is still trade talk. Fucking hates this shit.
And
pissed off.
When's the last time you heard a player publicly talk about his name being in trades and he didn't want that? You never hear that. Bryce Harper has full no trade clause right now because he had the 10-5 rights kick in.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have to go anywhere he doesn't want to. But in the same regard, it feels like we might be on the path. Maybe this is Mega Brain in March, April. It feels like we could be having a possible Rafael Devers 2.0 situation where, why are you causing this rift? But now one of your superstar players might not be here when you look at the team in June, even though I still think it's crazy that Bryce Harper would ever get traded. But the fact that Harper even acknowledged trade talks is crazy.
And I think that if the Devers situation didn't happen, I would say there's 0% chance of Harper getting traded. But I think that was an eye-opening experience. And also at the same time,
the Giants might trade for Bryce Harper. They might do it again.
But the team that can't get free agent side for them might as well just trade for him with a big contract already. But Harper can deny any trade he wants. Or Devers couldn't. Like, that's a big part here too, which makes this, again, very unlikely. But it's just, you don't really want this friction. And again, maybe this was
Dombrowski. Maybe Dombrowski goes
pissing him off.
This money, we free up this money. I can actually make this team better, which I don't know how they do that. It's only $25 million, so I don't know how they make this team better by losing Bryce Harper. But maybe he goes, I piss off Harper. Harper is a little more interested in being traded. The no trade clause thing, he's like, fine, get rid of me. And this is what he wanted. I don't know how that is. I can't connect the dots.
But like, why then to give Pete Alonso the same money to move Alec Boehm to first base? Like, there is a bit of I don't know. I think the first baseman in baseball should get together like the running backs in football did a few years ago.
Exactly.
Because why the fuck are you guys disrespecting us? Like, why in the world are 35 homers and 350 on base percentage? Why is that suddenly not valuable? And even the fact that Harper doesn't really rate well in DRS or defensive value, but he does rate well in OAA. And again, that's all in the public that we have to value defense. Yeah. Bryce Harper's bat speed was consistent where it was last year. He chases a lot of pitches out of strike zone, but he's kind of always done that. Like, he swings miss a lot, but he's always done that. Like, Bryce Harper is a fucking masher. Every team in baseball would be better off for Bryce Harper.
You have him on the Mets.
You have Yankee fans right now throwing out trade proposals with Ben Rice, and you have the argument like, who actually would you rather? Like, it's a funny situation where we're at now, and I think it does the crux of this, which I guess ties back to the Mets a little bit. Is that for some reason first baseman just habitually disrespected this era?
Yeah, no, they're like, unless your name's Freddie Freeman. If your name's Freddie Freeman, they treat you like you're a walking god.
Dave Dombrowski insulted Freddie Freeman in the same comment. He said he's not elite anymore either.
Yeah, Dave Dombrowski's got no rings with the Phillies, while Freddie Freeman's got one with the two teams he's played for. So, I mean...
It's just why the fuck would you ever say these things if you're the president of baseball operations for your team?
Like, we've talked so much about the comments that David Stearns made this year. And the big one was Senga. Kodai Senga is not fucking Bryce Harper. Not even remotely on the same planet as Bryce Harper. And we were reading into the tea leaves with those, being like, seems like Stearns is done with Senga. Seems like Senga might be a guy on the way out. Could you imagine if he did that with Francisco Lindor? If he mentioned about like one of the players, even if he said stuff about Nimmo, who is not even in the same realm as Bryce Harper either. Those are names that he left out. You just don't say that stuff about guys that, one, are there for a while, two, will be there for a while, and three, are the best players on your team.
That's the thing you don't say publicly.
Yes.
But again, that's how we talked about at the beginning, the disconnect with some of these guys. Like there was a great tweet that went around that Jerry DiPolo famously, the 54% thing.
Yes.
Since that quote from Jerry DiPolo, the Mariners have won 53% of their games, 53.87. If they would have won Game 7 against the Blue Jays, it was 84.1%. So these guys, that's the other thing. Like these guys are 54.1. These guys are very fucking smart. But we also think behind the scenes, at least I said this to you behind the scenes. I listened to the For All You Kids podcast. Shout out Jared and Jeffrey, Baseball Perspectives. There probably is some things inside the Mets room about where guys like Francisco Lindor are right now in their contracts. Like what has to happen to make this team get to the next level, be super elite. And I think that we're having to have these conversations from a Mets perspective because of how openly disastrous the season just was. That like when something goes this wrong, even though you do think in a lot of places your process was decent, you just have to change some things because you got everything went wrong. And this is a Phillies team where this is 5 years in a row you have not gone further. Like you are stuck as an organization right now. You keep getting to the same spot and you keep losing in different low-key embarrassing ways. Like imagine asking a Phillies fan which of the last 3 playoff defeats was worse.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Losing to the Diamondbacks
after being up,
your pitcher fumbles a pitch or a hit back to him and then throws the ball over the catcher's head when he could have just thrown the ball to first and gotten an easy out. Or the Mets just completely
dogging you,
pantsing you, and making you look like a little boy.
Like this is a cataclysmic 3 years for a franchise that has every single thing in place you assume to get to the right spot. And again, still pretty clear books. Like the Phillies have 5 guys making over $20 million. One of them is Nick Castellanos, who's a joke, and then also
Castellanos is gone.
And also at the same time, like I know how you feel about Alec Bohm, but like Alec Bohm is an average baseball player.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like as a 7 hitter, you could do a lot worse in Major League Baseball.
Oh, if Alec Bohm actually hit 7th, awesome. Sick. He's Brett Baty. I keep saying that all the time.
You've pulled Christopher Sanchez from the depths of hell, and he's an absolute ace level pitcher, top 10 pitcher in the league. You just revived Jesus Luzardo's whole career. He looks like a reborn stud once again. The Zach Wheeler thing's a big question, but you shouldn't. Again, maybe it's hard to say from our perspective because like you won 96 games, you're still one of the best teams in baseball. You keep getting in the same spot and losing. You probably shouldn't be looking to shake up things that much if you're a team like the Phillies right now.
You would think that the shakeups would be just the turnover of who has to leave the organization through free agency or through trades, but like not Harper. I don't think you'd point out one of your most valuable players and be like, he's probably the reason why we're not playing so well.
Yeah, maybe it's also this is maybe something else with these executives. And Mets fans want to say this about David Stearns all the time, but every single one of these guys does believe they're the smartest guy in the room.
Of course.
I think you have to be brilliant to even get one of these roles in the first place. And this Phillies team, they haven't had that same infusion of youth that other organizations get to have over the course of a few years. I think the Phillies this year had something like one of the lowest number of plate appearances by players 24 or younger. I think they have the fewest major league debuts in baseball for the last 3 years too. That Athletic article, the original one about Dombrowski, went out to say. But that's also about Dombrowski, just every single year, trade, shuffle. You get a lot of credit for that. Then they lose in the playoffs, never kind of forgets. Like, oh, I wish we kind of had maybe just some of these young players. Because we talked about it a lot this year. The Phillies bench was abominable.
Horrible. Like, I mean...
And the AAA is terrible.
What was it? Rafael Marchand, Weston Wilson, like some of the names on there, you're like, these are not Major League Baseball players. Let's be honest. I know it's a lot. No, it's rich coming from the Mets. We're not saying the Mets were amazing. This is you can talk about both without either of them having to have a Venn diagram where they connect. But yeah, like the Phillies had negative 1,000 depth. There was nothing. If one thing went wrong, their season was going to derail completely.
This also is a conversation that happens because we have a super team like the Dodgers in baseball, where a team like the Phillies probably would have broken through at some point. You know what I mean? Like even this year, like you could squint and be like, you're probably still the second or third best team in the whole league without your best pitcher.
That being said, again, if they just hit in the NLDS. They beat the Dodgers. They did not hit at all.
I mean, if they just hit Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, like that's kind of
Sure.
a tall task
Fair.
considering who
All
those
right,
guys
fair.
are. I guess.
Well,
part
the
of it, but
Dodgers
it's
didn't hit either.
No, they didn't. The Phillies have good pitching, like good starting pitching. But it's just, it's that weird thing where like, do I change something or do I try to do the exact same thing again and hope for a different result?
I hope they trade Bryce Harper. Get him out of the NL East. Although we kind of, as long as we have Edwin Diaz, Bryce Harper doesn't matter to us in the ninth inning. But
Which, I mean, I'll say let's bring it back to the Mets a little bit, close you guys out for some Mets talk. Maybe we're not, I feel less confident we're going to have Edwin Diaz after this weekend because Anthony DeComo put out a mailbag article and someone asked him who's more likely to be a Met next year, Edwin Diaz or Pete Alonso. He said Pete Alonso. I'm shocked by that.
His reasoning though was kind of like bullshit though. Did you see what he said? He said, I'm just going to read it out for you guys. To answer your question, though, I've long believed Alonso has a better chance of staying. While Alonso may find a friendlier free agent market awaiting him this winter without a qualifying offer attached to his services, he arguably fits the Mets better than any other suitor realistically. I don't believe that statement.
I kind of believe that. I mean, 'cause now, like, look at us segueing everything back and forth.
Red Sox.
Besides, I kind of. Really,
Why?
I think.
Why wouldn't he be a better fit with the Red Sox?
I think they'd rather Bregman. I don't think they're going to do both.
Sure, but in terms of like where Pete calls home, I think that's more so like in terms of the suitors. I don't think the Mets are like this perfect landing spot for Pete as opposed to the Red Sox or some of the other teams out there. Like,
I think they kind of are because we're the team that blatantly doesn't have a first baseman without him.
true,
Like,
but
we got nothing.
The Red Sox don't want Tristan Casas. He's gone. They are
think so,
dying
bro.
to get rid of him.
But then you still have to trade him. Now we come back to this Harper thing. Teams just don't make big offers for first base.
Also
they don't
true.
Make big trades for first
But
base.
wait, let me finish this because this was the other part where I was like, he said, sure, President of Baseball Operations David Stearns is not going to love Alonso 5, 6, 7 years if he can avoid it. But Alonso's skill set, the Mets roster hole, and his importance to the franchise are all factors. For those reasons, I have a hard time envisioning the two sides not coming to a mutually beneficial agreement. And I agree with that last sentence, but you know how much I hate the importance to the franchise thing. It's like, is he good? Is he going to make this team better? That's all that matters. For those reasons, yes, Pete is awesome. Love him here. Want him back as a Met. The importance to the franchise thing, that's complete bullshit. David Stearns does not give a fuck about that.
No, and I think a lot of people who maybe are hoping Pete Alonso comes back because of that should probably get that out of their heads. Because I just don't think that's how that might have been how some executives thought, like in the 80s or the 90s, early 2000s. But it's simply not. It's not a factor. And I do think that there is a slight flip side to that, where I do think that players in the league might care about that.
Fair.
If you want to sign a contract with the team, you want to know that they're taking care of players. I think a lot of players in Major League Baseball respect the shit out of Pete Alonso. I think a lot of players are like, that is kind of their franchise guy. Like, he's the homegrown guy. He's been there, of course, longer than Lindor. Now it's going to be him and Soto's team, but like, you keep a guy like that around at a fair market price.
Hey, if you want to take care of yourself, your body, and everything that goes into health, fitness, and nutrition, Superpower provides Kratz what I would call the pro experience for the everyday person.
100%. Super easy. You get your lab test results back, and you can streamline exactly what you're deficient in. You can say, okay, this is what the results told me. I'm going to go ahead and maybe look for that in a supplement, which they provide. I'm going to go ahead and look at that in my daily workouts, which they give so many different ideas of how to make sure your deficiencies become some of your superpowers.
Superpower used to cost $499. Head to superpower.com right now to learn more and lock in the special $199 price while it lasts. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them and make sure you mention FT. Your biology decoded, your blueprint activated with Superpower.
Is there, I just kind of clicked with me too. Is there just also maybe just a changing of a guard with Pete where, because you did mention this, like people look at Pete Alonso, look at the Mets, and while Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto are the better players, the more valuable players, the more expensive players, you kind of do equate the Mets with Pete Alonso right now more than you go to those guys immediately, I think.
I think, I don't know, that's probably pretty split with someone. I think a lot of people do equate the Mets with Lindor, but there probably is something where, we said it all the time, the Mets team has a stank, and Pete Alonso is one of the guys. We talked about clearing the organization of anybody who share the room with the Wilpots.
But I want Pete back. I do want Pete back. I want to make this very clear every time we say this. I want Pete back.
But again, and you brought up the Devers thing too, where it felt stupid at the time. It still felt stupid when the Red Sox were eliminated from the playoffs.
The trade they got, it's what they got back that's made it stupid. It's not the idea of trading Rafael Devers, I think.
I think we go through this with baseball all the time where people kind of get obsessed with players and names on a sheet of paper and on the webpage when you look in the offseason. But baseball is it's so much more sum of the parts game. Like, it's all about fit and it's about culture. You got to hang out with these guys every single day.
Culture is important.
And Pete, I'm not saying Pete's bad for that, but it's just, and again, this is how we got into this conversation with Harper. Like, if you can't get over the hump, like, you just got to change something sometimes. That is. And like, sometimes that winds up being the manager. The Phillies didn't change the manager. The Mets didn't change their manager. The Red Sox haven't changed their manager. Like, you just maybe have to get new guys in a room. And again, I don't want that not to be Pete, but the Mets have been trying for years to turn over this new leaf, like in the Cohen regime. And now this time they took really a significant step backwards. I don't know. I just shout out Jeff Fisher. Sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards, but it's like there's something to that. And again, the Devers thing, he seemed like he was kind of like a petulant member of the clubhouse, which is something you wanted to avoid because the Red Sox were graduating lots of super high-end prospects. They didn't kind of want them to be. And this was words that came out. Chris Castillo had these reports. Guys Nesson had these reports. They basically, the Red Sox worried about like spoiling the minds of these like impressionable young men with a bad leader like Rafael Devers, which is correct. That's nowhere close to who Pete Alonso is. People speak very highly of him, his leadership, everything. But just the changing sometimes, getting some difference makers, different people in there making a difference, different fits, anything.
Yeah, it's a weird conversation to have because it's just in your mind, both of these guys should be on the teams that they've been on for the rest of their career.
It's in both guys' cases, it'd be very surprising for this to change. But
yes.
I mean,
now we're in a world where both guys might not be on the same team.
I mean, one guy might be on the other team. Like if Philly trade Bryce Harper beside Pete Alonso, I'm gonna fucking freak the fuck out. But
I'm gonna get really drunk.
This is our way to just like covertly have another Pete Alonso episode because we've just given you guys that. Because the only thing to really talk about right now, because that is the big story, even though he's not going to sign until January.
Yeah, no, there's really not much else going on in the Mets world. We appreciate you guys for watching and listening. Shout out Mark, got married this weekend. Give him a little shout out. He always listens to the podcast and watches, so we appreciate you. Hope you're enjoying being married. Otherwise, we're going to catch you guys later this week for the Chris Suero interview, Arizona Fall League recap, because they've got a lot of data about all the players the Mets sent there. And if you just like prospect talk, which I think most of you guys do, it's great. A little catch up for you since we haven't done it in a minute. Otherwise, that is pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to Mets Up. Make sure you're following us on all our social media on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can follow James at
James Shiano.
And I'm Giraffe Neck Mark with a C. Subscribe to the Wind Up. You guys know the drill. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Let's go Mets.